I'm taping this. It is just after midnight. And these are the technical things that happen when I'm, tired. Wrestling talk. A lot of talk about the WWE Draft. We're getting ready for Backlash here. Admittedly, I haven't been able to sit down and watch Raw. You boy, as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, boy's not feeling well. Finally got it checked out. I got bronchitis, so we are working our way through that as well as we can over here. But in terms of the draft, a lot of people were underwhelmed by it. And look, I will say it was not the most exciting WWE draft, and that's okay. Why is it okay? Well, the first note is that, and the biggest one here, is the big thing with the draft has, for a while, been champions can trade brands, right? Like, even going back to one of the first, like, big ones that they did, where you had Cena go from SmackDown to Raw with the WWE Championship, and then you had Batista go to SmackDown with the World Heavyweight Championship. Like, you have these big brand shakeup things like, oh my god, new champion on a new brand. This is amazing. That shouldn't have happened this year, and it didn't, and that was a good thing. It wasn't good for the entertainment. It would have been great if, holy fucking shit, Cody Rhodes is on Raw, and Damian Priest is now on SmackDown. This is insanity. That would have been great for the excitement of it, but you have just introduced a whackload of new championship belts and new phrasing for all of these titles. Having them jump back and forth does nothing for it. And so I think it was a good move to take that out, even though the lack of championship movement, I think, hindered the excitement level of this draft rather substantially. The other part of it is that there was some criticism that there wasn't a whole lot of big movement from brand to brand to brand to brand to brand. And I also think that's a good thing. Again, that this was a draft that was necessary. It is a good way to kind of like reset things after WrestleMania and just kind of get everyone back to where they're supposed to be. Because going into WrestleMania, you have guys showing up on whatever show. Sheamus gets drafted to Raw. And like, oh wow, that's a great addition for Raw and a great steal from SmackDown, even though he was on Raw last week. Like, WrestleMania season, everything just gets thrown into the blender for the most part. This is a good time to just put everyone back into the show that they're supposed to be on and establish that. And they have done such a poor job leading up to the last couple of years of establishing who's a Raw guy, who's a SmackDown guy, and letting the brands kind of cross-pollinate a little bit. I think it's good that there wasn't a whole lot of movement, because the best thing about it is you establish this guy's a Raw guy, this guy's a SmackDown guy. It's not Seth Rollins bouncing from every show. It's not Kevin Owens bouncing from every show. You get a couple so that it's still there, but you're not necessarily locking into all of these big things and just kind of confusing things. Like, I think of Triple H as a Raw guy. I think of John Cena as a Raw guy. I think of Rey Mysterio as a SmackDown guy. I know he was on both, but I think of him mainly as a SmackDown guy. You think of Edge mainly as a SmackDown guy, like the SmackDown 6. Those guys were locked in on those spots. Even though there was a little bit of it, they at least were at their home long enough to establish that base. And I think WWE needed to do that here. So, was this the most exciting draft? No, it was not. But I do think that is a good thing for the WWE moving forward into this next year. The one part of it that does kind of hinder you a little bit is that the NXT call-ups, before, when NXT started being this king of the indies with like Adam Cole and Finn Balor and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins and all these guys, it was like, oh my God, we are going to get to see this guy getting called up. And one of the ones we couldn't wait for was Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era, and that never really came. But you always had this excitement of, okay, Shinsuke Nakamura is going to come to Raw or SmackDown. That's insane. There wasn't that this time around. We've seen Braun Breaker for weeks on the main roster. We've seen Carmelo Hayes at times on the main roster. We saw Dragunov like an hour ago on the main roster before he gets drafted. So the big names that people could have been excited about, you kind of already got that taste of it already. And I have no problem again with how they debuted Dragunov, but it felt like, okay, this guy is getting called up. So you don't have the anticipation of, I've watched this guy on Ring of Honor for 8 years and now he's going to be on the main roster. And you kind of killed some of the anticipation early on by introducing these characters on your way up to the draft. So yes, the draft was not the most exciting. But long term, I don't think that's really a bad thing. We will continue our look at the world of professional wrestling as the week goes on, getting ready for our Backlash preview on Friday.